Hey Fuzzballs, welcome to Sid's manga reading log for April of 2024. I'm getting the months really mixed up lately. Pardon me for that. So I'm going to start off with Square Enix. First of all, we have The Villainess's Guide to Not Falling in Love. It's the first volume of another Villainess series. I enjoyed this pretty decently. Got to give it some more time to breathe before I figure out my true opinions on it. But um, Honestly, it's been a while, so I don't remember the specific details about it, but I'm typically easy to please with villainess series. There's only like one or two I'm not that huge on. I think the only other book I have from Square Enix that I read was Demons of the Shadow Realm Volume 4. I'm enjoying this pretty well so far. It seems like the plot's getting more interesting. Character designs, Arakawa does tend to have kind of same face syndrome with her art, but I think she does a lot of these uh, demons or yokai or whatever they're technically called. I think they have interesting designs, and I really like the story so far. I definitely recommend reading it. Then we have Tokyo Pop with I think there's only 3 volumes for Tokyo Pop, starting with Since I Could Die Tomorrow Volume 2. Um, I was not a huge fan of like most of the first volume, but I started liking it near the end, and I really am enjoying this second volume so far, or enjoying the second volume and enjoying this series so far. I think it's an interesting perspective that I'm not really used to seeing in books, as I've said before with the last volume, and it does have a lot of it kind of does like these vignettes of different characters and their struggles and their stories, which is really interesting to read about. Then I have 2 volumes of Sengoku Yoko. I thought I got better pronouncing that. I guess I didn't. We have volumes 5 and volume 6. This ends part 1 of Sengoku Yoko. I think the anime actually ended right at the midpoint of volume 6, right at the end of part 1. I think it's going to be 2 cores. I'm not sure. But yeah, I've heard mixed opinions on Sengoku Yoko. I feel like it does kind of tend to seem like a typical shonen series. Um, but I think that's kind of how Mizukami's work thrives, is that it seems very typical, very bog standard, but he has a lot of really interesting plot developments and character developments that really make his work stand out as unique. I am enjoying Sengoku Yoko a lot so far, and I'm really excited to finally get really started on the second part of it once it comes out. I've got one book from One Piece Books, which is Tales of the Kendo. I can't pronounce anything. Tales of the Tendo Family, Volume 1. This is. I don't really know the shortest way to describe this aside from she wants to die. Um, she saves somebody from dying. Um, she. I don't want to say she wants to die. She wants to die like an honorable death. She wants to save somebody uh, and die doing so, which is a little odd, but I think it kind of makes sense why she saved the initial person who was going to be married into the Tendo family, because the person who's going to be married into the Tendo family tried to commit suicide since she didn't want to join that family, since there have been terrible, terrible rumors about it. So we have this girl thrown into the situation, and it's something completely unfamiliar to her, and we have a lot of drama in this series. I feel like this is going to be a very heavy drama series with a lot of interpersonal relationships going on. Then we've got decent stack of Kodansha, and I am just realizing that I have one oversized 7Cs, or one oversized Square Enix that I didn't talk about earlier. I think it's because of how I have my books organized. Anyways, first we have Welcome to the Demon School. Welcome to Demon School, Irmakun, Volume 7. This is entering Irma's Evil Arc. Really fun. Still loving the manga. If you're not sure about the manga, give the anime a shot. If you like the anime, why not buy the manga? It's only 30 something volumes, right? Definitely not a commitment, right? Super fun, though. Love it so much. Whoa. Hope that didn't come across the camera. Uh, Next, we have Origin, Volume 3 by Boichi. Again, really, really liking this so far. I think Boichi is a fantastic artist with a lot of really, really detailed drawings, and I really am interested in the story so far. I'm flipping the book way too much. Uh, then we have Go Go Loser Ranger, Volume 9. I'm starting to enjoy the series more now that we're getting We got past like a lot of the weird, confusing fights. I do feel like the fight choreography is the thing that holds this series back the most. Fights are a bit difficult for me to follow, and the characters are really what keeps you coming back to this series. And I think the characters are well written and interesting characters to view. Um, then we have A Condition Called Love, Volume 7. We started the anime this season, and am enjoying it. I really do enjoy the complexities of each of the characters, how they're not one-dimensional characters. They have their own personalities and their own depth to them, and I think it's a really interesting series to read. It's also a fun romance, but it's not all. It's not just straightforward happy romance. There's some interpersonal drama, not extremely serious interpersonal drama though. Then we have Super Morning Star, Volume 3. Not really enjoying past the first volume of Super Morning Star. I think I enjoyed this volume a bit. I think this volume and the last volume had a lot of drama between the main two characters and how their relationship has shaken out, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I'll still keep reading it. It's an alright series. Like many people have said, I feel like it would have been better as a one shot. Then we have Rent a Girlfriend, Volume 24. We are continuing this beach vacation, not beach vacation, water park, Hawaiian park, whatever vacation. It seems like we're getting closer to the confession, which is going to be interesting and really shake up the series. If it does happen soon, I don't know. Um, Again, I've heard that the series gets bad after the movie arc, so I'm really holding my breath on it. Then we've got King in Limbo Volume 2. I think this is only going to be one more volume. It's a really interesting um, sci-fi series. I don't think it's shown an eye, but uh, I feel like a decent amount of people would want to ship these two characters together. Um, it's a really good series, though. It's very interesting, a good read, and it's not terribly long. Then we've got I got reincarnated in a BL world of big man boobs. This is just fun, dumb parody fun. Um, about a guy who is very interested in women's breasts and reincarnates into a world with the wish that he gets to touch breasts and be surrounded by them. And he's reincarnated into a BL world where there's lots of men with different pectorals, and the main man actually has like, I don't know how to describe them. They're muscular. He's muscular and fit, but he's got like B cup size breasts, which is odd and not something I've really seen much. But it's interesting, and it's fun seeing the main character just struggle between his feelings about uh his feelings about being romantically attracted to men and also booby. So it's really fun to read. It's not too serious, fairly lighthearted though. And here's the Square Enix volume that I missed earlier, volume 4 of Ice Guy and the Cool Girl. I don't know why they have donuts on the cover, because they never go to a donut place in this volume. I guess it's just pretty art. Really not too much to say about the series. It's pretty much just a cute office romance between an ice spirit and a cool girl. But yeah, it's fun. It's a good series. I definitely recommend reading it online before you decide to pick up the volumes or watching the anime, because the volumes, regardless of how nice they are $15 for a fairly short read. Then we've got one volume of Udon Entertainment. This was back, should have been read, I think, last month or the month before, but we fell behind on this series just because it fell out of the list of things I normally pick up somehow. This is Team Phoenix Volume 3, and it seems like things are really, really ramping up towards a big climax in the story, so I'm really not sure what is going to go on with the story from this point forward. It doesn't help that I'm not really that familiar with most of the stories in this series. It's interesting. The fight, the fights are. I don't think they're terribly hard to follow, but they are a lot going on at once. But I think that might just be because of the scale of this first big conflict. It's interesting. I'm not sure if I'd recommend it or not so far. Then we finally got Oh My Goddess Volume 7. This is the latest volume of the series and finally got its first publication, I think last month, and I'm so happy to finally have it. I really love this series. I watched it as a kid, um, and I was fully expecting it to just be another series I watched as a kid that I enjoy for nostalgia only, but I think it has a lot of very good writing and very good characters in it. And the fan service in here is not the what you'd expect from like the typical fan service nowadays, where it's very a lot of skin showing and a lot of pervy behavior. It's like elegant fan service, which sounds really weird to say. I don't know how to describe it aside from just recommending to watch the series or read it and see what I'm talking about exactly. Next, we have a single volume release, which is Living with Him by Animated International. This is it's a cute yaoi. Uh, it doesn't have anything explicit until like the very last like post chapter. It's a fairly slow burn for a yaoi romance one shot. It takes a while for both characters to realize their feelings and their emotions, and I think it's a really good read. It's enjoyable, and I'm thought this was going to be the only pickup I'd have from Animated International for a long time, but I just remembered that they licensed Masked Donshi, which I absolutely want to pick up, and I already pre-ordered. So next we have Titan manga with two volumes, Poetry of Ron, Volume 2. This is a two-volume series about a bard and a adventurer, and I think it's a good read. It's nothing spectacular or anything, but I think it's really interesting, and I like the angle of the bard telling the story of the character and his woes and that sort of thing. I think it's a contained good read. Nothing fantastic, but good. Especially if it's only two volumes, it's not that big of a time sink. Then we have Three Exorcism Siblings Volume 1. I'm kind of enjoying this so far. It does seem fairly typical shonen sort of stuff, but I'm waiting to see how the power system scales out, how the characters develop, all that sort of thing. It's essentially this main brother trying to protect his siblings from the threat of Tengu, and he's taking all the responsibility, and then his brothers are wanting to help him out eventually. It's an interesting read. I'm not sure how it's going to go. Just off of first impressions, it seems like it might be fun. I don't know if it's going to be anything great, but I think it might be enjoyable. Then we have My Girlfriend's Child, Volume 4, a very heavy drama series with some interesting parents, which is fun to read about. It's really good, but just be warned that there's a lot of difficult things discussed in this series. Things like abortion, things like uh, the child's choice in the situation, or the pregnant child's choice as opposed to the parent's choice in how the situation with the child is handled, how the responsibility falls. It's very interesting, introspective read. Then we've got Momo Volume 8. Just kind of writing this out until the end of the series. This volume was alright. It didn't have a lot of the weird, icky stuff that the last few volumes did, but I do feel like that weird, icky stuff just kind of really put me off the whole series. Um, the art's still really good, and the covers are very gorgeous. But yeah, that's pretty much my opinions on it. Then we've got I'm a Wolf, but My Boss is a Sheep, Volume 4, an office romance about beast people, and it's enjoyable. It's fairly bog standard, but I think it's decent writing and decent characters. And the wolf character's hot, but he's a wolf. What do you expect? Um, then we've got Crossplay Love Otaku X Punk Volume 8. Really fun series. Little hard to keep track of everybody because there's a lot of bouncing characters with uh, kind of similar faces, especially with black and white. You don't see the colorful hair and colorful clothes. It's very fun though. It's a good series to read, and I'm really wondering if they're ever going to actually find out about each other, or if it's just going to keep building up forever. Then we've got The Condemned Villainess goes back in time and aims to become the ultimate villain, Volume 1. This actually does kind of remind me of The Villain Turns the Hourglass, where it turns out the heroine is the one that's just not the not good person, the one who's like the true villainess, but everybody doesn't see that. So it's Really, it's a really fun read. I like seeing the kind of revenge aspect and how she's you turning everything against the heroine that made her life hell in her first life. Really fun. And lastly, for the standard size 7Cs, we have Cinderella Closet Volume 5. Still like the art in this series, and I think the manga volumes are very pretty. I'm not a huge fan of the how the relationships are starting to peter out and develop, but I think it's still enjoyable. I probably shouldn't just bash on it just because I don't like the fact that it's the I think identifies as a male, dresses as a female. I don't. The male lead uh, kind of seems to be destined to be in a relationship with the female lead, and I'm really hoping that he still retains his makeup and hair stuff, and that he doesn't just change it to like a standard, completely male presenting guy all the time. I hope he still retains his cross dressing uh, and makeup. I can't think of the right words, but yeah, hopefully he retains that. I'm not really sure how the story's going to go. Then we've got Who Made Me a Princess, Volume 5. It looks like we're getting very close to finishing this sub arc with the father getting amnesia. It's really good manhwa. I feel like my only problem with these manhwa is just they take so long to read because they're like 300 pages. And it's always a commitment for me to sit down and read one of these, especially since it's big and heavy and I have to read it like lying down. I can't read it like sitting up and holding it. It's really good. It's there's a lot of really good manhwa out right now that I'm reading. There's only a few I'm not a huge fan of. Then we've got Orb on the Movements of the Earth, volumes 3 to 4. I got another really good story. I do. I'm still not the biggest fan of the art style. I think the perspectives and the character proportions aren't great at times, but I think the author has a very interesting, good story to tell about basically discovering the current heliocentric model where the sun's at the center of the universe and everything rotates around the sun, and how in this series the church is basically fighting against that. Then we've got a one shot by Scarlett Barrico, the creator of Jealousy, Jackass, Fourth Generation Head, and there's probably one other I'm forgetting. I'm sure there is, but really, she's a really good mangaka. I love all of her series, so I collect everything she's written, in English at least. This is no exception. It's a fantastic one-off yaoi. Nothing problematic or anything, just a good, wholesome, cute story. I think there's sex. No, there's not sex. It's teen 13 plus. I sure hope there isn't. I think that's the only work of hers I know of that doesn't have that, because all the other ones are very explicit. Then we've got Marmalade Boy Volume 5. This is the final volume of the series, with a lot of drama and secrets being revealed in this volume, which is a lot of crazy stuff, like absolutely wild ride from start to beginning with this fifth volume. I definitely see why it's a classic series. It's very enjoyable, very fun read. I think the characters are good, though I am not a fan with how one of the relationship pans out because big age gap. But I don't want to spoil that in case you want to read it. But yeah, it's a good series, especially since it's only 5 volumes in that omnibus format. Speaking of manhwa, I'm not a fan of Killing Stalking, Volume 6. Um, I just I'm just riding along with this one. I do like seeing how these characters became the way they are, how they become the levels of messed up they are. Especially um the killer in the Killing Stalking. What's his name? Songwoo, I think. The guy with the undercut. I like seeing how his mentality and how his personality became what it is now. It's just it's a trash can. Then we've got Gap Papa, Daddy at Working at Home, Volume 4. Didn't like the first volume because there wasn't enough content in it. Um, it's I'm still not a huge fan of it. I'm enjoying it enough to keep reading it and keep picking it up. I mean, it's really just saccharine, fun, cute couple life with a child. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but if that's something that you enjoy, then it's going to be a good read for you. I enjoy it somewhat, but I'm not super sold on the series. Then we've got Iliad Volume 2. by Mojito. Very interesting manhwa. Um, I think we're going to start getting into like more of the BL aspects in the third volume, but so far it seems to be like taking these ancient Egyptian stories and like retelling them in a manhwa format, which is interesting but a bit difficult to follow just because I'm not super familiar with the source material of those Egyptian stories. Um, it's interesting. I am enjoying it a lot so far. The art style is good and the characters are interesting. Next, we have the Dragon King's Imperial Wrath Falling in Love with the Bookish Princess of the Rat Clan, Volume 3. This is a final volume in this three-volume series. I do feel like it could have gone on longer. It's a very interesting story with a very lovable main character and a very lovable male lead. Um, it's a very good story for only three volumes too, so 100% recommend it. Especially if you're not willing to get into some of these longer romance Imperial Court series. Very good though. I would 100% recommend. All right, I'm gonna get into the Yin Press now with Shy Volume 6. I'm enjoying this fight they're in a lot right now. It seems like Shy's getting better the longer it goes on. I like the explorations of the character's depths and the character's emotions. Um, I really like the this character's interaction with another character that is, I think, male. But yeah, the other character's male, but they're very masculine and they like cute stuff. And this character likes masculine things, but their build and the way they look is very femme. So it's a really fun dynamic between the two when they're fighting. Then we have Reborn as a Vending Machine. I Now Wander the Dungeon, Volume 2. I don't think this is terribly long so far. I'm pretty sure the manga's on like a super long hiatus. Very fun series, very good. Definitely recommend watching the anime to see if you like it before picking up the manga, especially because the anime is definitely further along than the manga at this point, because the manga's only at 2 volumes over here, and it feels like it's been like a year since the first one. Then we've got Miyuko-chan Volume 9. Really, really enjoying this tentacle girl that God, that sounds terrible out of context. This tentacle monster girl that showed up and is having like interactions and that sort of stuff with the main character. The cover makes it look worse than it actually is, like spicier than it actually is. It's not. It's not really spicy. It's a really interesting, fun read. I'm very curious how this tentacle girl is going to progress the story. Basically, it's good though. 100% recommend. The anime is a little more fan service heavy, but the manga is not exactly fan service let. Not exactly without fan service either. Then we've got Illustrated Guide to Monster Girls Volume 3. Still just okay on this series. It's only 4 volumes, so it's not that much of a commitment. I think that's kind of what inspired me to just keep picking it up, in spite of the fact that I'm just not a huge fan of it. It's enjoyable. The character designs are cute, but something about it's not really grabbing me personally. Then we've got the Oversized Yen Press with The Summer Hikaru Died, Volume 3. Fantastic series. 100% recommend. Boys love, Eldritch horror. What can go wrong? Better to not explain too much about it either. Then we've got Toge Oni, Volume 3. I really hate that nobody talks about this. Like, nobody's mentioning this series at all. I didn't know it was a historical fiction. I didn't know it was based on, like, an actual historical character in Japanese folklore, which makes it even more interesting to learn about. I think it's also on hiatus at a certain point, but I can't remember for certain. Very good story, very good characters. I don't know why this was wrapped. There's not anything spicy in it, so I'm sure somebody can tell me if I ask the right person, but I don't know. Then we've got Knights of the Cat, Volume 3. This is just a really cute series about a guy with a cat and how the cat just interacts with everything. I don't want to open it because I don't want to risk anything. Yeah, cute cat story. That's pretty much all that you got to know about this one. There's a lot of series like this where it's just cute cat stuff, but I think Knights of the Cat's one of the better ones. Then we've got a one shot, My Gemini. This is by the creator of Mr. Villain's Day Off, Yu Morikawa. This is a very interesting mystery one off about two twins that like love to switch personalities and see if people can tell them apart. Nobody ever can except for this main character here. But when one of them dies, who's the twin that's left? And then we get to see how that unfolds and how things get figured out. It's a very interesting, good read. Then we've got Monato's Laundromat, Volume 2. I'm enjoying this series. It used to be like, with the first time, I'm like, I hope they don't end up together, but at this volume, I'm just like, they're probably going to. I should probably just accept the fact. Even though there's a big age gap, I'm just going to just try and look past that. I just noticed that the O is in the shape of a little washing machine. That's cute. It's a good series, though. I think it's good writing. It's just I'm not a fan of the big age gap. Then there's Lord Hades' Ruthless Marriage, Volume 2. Very much enjoy this series. Super fun. I love Greek mythology, so this really appeals to me. The characters are very pretty and well designed. And I found out it's only 3 volumes, and I'm sad. Yeah, really good, though. Next, we have Fox Color Jealousy. This is an alright BL. I do think the Fox Boy's cute. Their relationship's interesting. Um, so essentially, like the Fox spirit will take over his body and act on his impulses and thoughts, which is can cause some troubles. But it's 1 volume. It's a cute BL. It's nothing spectacular though, personally. Then there is The Essence of Being a Muse, Volume 3. Um, I think this wrapped up decently well for only being 3 volumes, and with how much they had going on in the first couple volumes. It's a good, I almost said autobiographical. It's a good story about an artist discovering themselves and discovering what they want to become in life. And I think it's definitely worth the read, especially with how short it is. All right, lastly, I'm going to be talking about Viz series, starting with Taman's B-Side, Volume 3. Really enjoyable idol series. Rom-com sort of thing. Very cute idol and a lot of I think all of the different idols in the group have very weird personalities contrasting to how they normally are, which is really fun to read about. Then we have Sakamoto Days Volume 11. Very good covers. Looks like we're finishing up the school arc fairly soon here, which has been a really fun arc and really enjoyable for the series so far. I think it's actually getting an anime on Netflix this year, so very excited about that. Next is Rainbow Days Volume 9. Still about the same opinion on this series. It's a decent high school romance series, but there's a couple of the characters I'm just really not a fan of, and how one of the relationships seems to be panning out. I'm really not enjoying. These two are good characters, though. I like their relationship with each other. I think the main character and his interests might be developing a relationship soon, but we're like halfway through the series, so I don't know how that's going to go. Then we've got Mission Yozakura Family Volume 10. We are finally getting to the end of an arc that's been taking like 3 to 4 volumes, so we're probably going to get some like downtime in this next volume. I didn't really enjoy that. I did really enjoy that last arc and the fights that took place in it. I think the fight choreography is decent in the series too, which is good. Characters are good and fun. Need to watch more of the anime, see how that's doing. Then we've got Marriage Talks in Volume 2. I'm enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would, considering I wasn't even the one who wanted to pick it up. It's a good series. Uh, Good writing, good characters, interesting premise. Definitely worth giving a shot. Then we've got Komi Can't Communicate Volume 29. Still one of my favorite series, period. This is like a training camp sort of thing with like a study group camp, I guess you would probably say. A lot of hijinks, still really fun, really enjoyable, good stuff. It's Komi. Then we finally have the last volume of Kaguya-sama Love is War, Volume 28. This volume's like, we ended like the big arc of several volumes, and now we're just basically wrapping up everybody's story in this volume. So, showing how everybody finished their character arcs in high school, and now they're graduating and moving on, and some of them are still in high school in different roles now. It's still a great series. I think it's worth checking out if you haven't touched it at all. Then we've got Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 22. Things are really wild this volume. Um, this design just speaks for itself. Like, come on. I can't really describe too much of what's going on without giving major spoilers ahead of where the anime is right now. Um, the only issue I have with JJK at this point is just fights are very difficult to follow. Then we've got Goku Rakugai Volume 1. This is a decent series, or a decent start to the series, I should say. I'm not super sold on it yet. There's a cute wolf boy, so that's that. But I don't remember what the exact premise is. Okay, yeah, kind of like Hitman to take out these monsters in a city, and a lot of the aesthetic is very like Chinese inspired, as you can tell by the cover. I'll have to give it a couple more volumes to see how I really feel about it. Then we've got Dawn to Dawn Volume 7. Fantastic series. I, Absolutely insane. I don't know where they come up with some of the stuff they do in this series. I'm trying to remember exactly what happens. Yeah, this is basically just trying to correct the fallout from the last fight and battle they had. Then we've got Boruto Volume 19. Um, I'm really enjoying Boruto despite what people might think about it. I think it's a good series. And we're getting very close to wrapping up the current series before we move on to Blue Vertex. Can't talk too much about it. We're really late into the series, so I'd probably just say a bunch of spoilers. Then there's Akane Banashi Volume 5. Fantastic series. A lot more people need to read this. It's a great Rakugo series with a lot of information about the art form that's very foreign to a lot of Americans, I think. Um, I really like this new mentor character that Akane is going to be working under in this volume. Right, and the final grouping I have for this video is the Viz Sigs and oversized Viz releases with Steel the Celestial Shadows Volume 2. Another very, very interesting story with a very interesting premise. It's got some amnesia in this volume that we're trying to get worked out due to one of the curses. And I think I don't want to spoil too much about the series, but it's very, very good, and I think more people need to be reading it because I've never heard anybody talk about it. Then we've got Snowball Earth Volume 1. I definitely enjoyed how this series started out and then progressed through the first volume. I'm really wondering where things are going to go. I mean, it seems like it's very open with where things are going to go, but I'm very interested to see how things progress. Uh, Very good premise, good characters, good story. Overall, a good series, and I'm hoping it stays good. Then we have Neighborhood Story Volume 2. It looks like this is they're very quickly getting together in a relationship, the main lead and the main female lead. Um, Yazawa has very, very distinctive art, very interesting fashion, and I'm enjoying this a lot so far. Then we've got Magilumie, Magical Girls Inc., Volume 1, another series that I wasn't picking up, my partner is, but I read it and it's really good. Basically, an office worker who's extremely dedicated to her uh, self improvement and getting a job ends up working at a struggling magical girl company and starts training to be a magical girl. And it's really fun and really interesting with a cool power system. Also, a hot guy that dresses as a magical girl. Very nice. And lastly, we have Dracula Volume 2 uh, by Shinichi Sakamoto. Masterful art, very interesting story. It's very, very good. It's definitely worth like $30 a volume for this size is a lot, but I think it's worth it to read this series. It's a very, very good, interesting series. But with that, that's all of the stuff I read in April of 2024, and I thank you so much for your attention and watching, and I hope to see y'all in next month's videos. Bye, guys.